the hell's going on with the weather, man? Like, it's not getting warm anytime soon. It's like this is spring already. Jeez. Hey guys, what's up? It's your man Pete, and back with another update video that you guys all know and love. Because you really want to know what's going on out there, right? Is it a buyer's market? Is it a seller's market? Like, you want to know all the juicy details about what's happening in the market and how we're helping our clients. And of course, you want to hear from me, one of the best in the city that's doing it right out there. But anyway, the Toronto Real Estate Board just released their March sales figures and the average selling price for the Toronto area and region. And I'm sure you probably heard about it on the radio, on TV, on your scrolling news feed on TV, because of course real estate talk is one of our favorite pastimes here in the Toronto and GTA region, other than talking about the weather. Am I right? And of course it is. Of course it's important to talk about real estate, right? Because we're talking about a lot of money here. We're talking about putting your entire livelihood in purchasing shelter for you and your family. And so we're literally talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars and even into the millions now. So it's important for you to want to hear from a seasoned professional like myself who really knows what's going on, who's been to this rodeo before and seen how markets can change. But we'll dive a little bit deeper into the numbers to give you a sense of whether it's actually a buyer's market or a seller's market. And so I'll share some of my thoughts, opinions, and insights into what I think is going on in the market, and so you can better align yourself and adjust yourself to what the current conditions are like right now. But before we move on, I just want you guys all to tap that little button over there with the button that starts with an S and it's red. And then once you do that, we're going to get into the video and talk about the real meat and potatoes. We'll see you guys on the other side right after this. Okay, and we're back. So March was certainly a very interesting month, right? Where we had a ton more inventory coming out to the market. Sales transactions were not terrible. I mean, they were actually the second best on record compared to 2021, which was, of course, a record year. The market's a little weird, right? It's kind of like a trampoline, Let's flash back to when you guys were a kid, or maybe at Sky Zone, when you were jumping up and down on a trampoline, and you're like, you're pressing really hard, you're pushing really hard, and then you get to the top, right? You get to the peak, and you're like, okay, am I going to go higher? Can I just eke out a couple more centimeters here, or am I going to be starting to drop? So it's kind of like in that area of suspension. That's sort of where we are, and this happens all the time. It pretty much happens every single year. Buyers and sellers are a little unsure. Is the market going to continue to keep going up, or is it going to start leveling off, plateauing, or maybe even starting to come down a little? But the latest figures might actually give us a very good indication or clue of where we are or where we were last month. And then when we put all those numbers and figures together, it sort of gives us a pretty good idea of what's going on, and it definitely jives with what's happening with my clients here at Selling Toronto, the brokerage. But then of course, obviously there was a few other things that were happening outside of the Toronto market that were, kind of affecting our market in some way. The first thing is there was a 25 basis point increase in interest rates, which finally happened. It was being threatened all through the first couple of months of the year, and then it finally happened in March. So it didn't necessarily have a huge impact on people's pocketbooks financially, but I think a lot of buyers were hoping that that was actually going to slow down the market a little bit. And so buyers were backing off the market and not as active as they would have been as they were in January and February. And of course, gas prices have hit numbers and digits that we've never seen before, right? These are completely new records. We're literally seeing gas prices at $1.60, $1.70 a liter very consistently now. And then of course, we've still got the pandemic going on with new variants happening, and cities like Shanghai, China having to lock down because the vaccines aren't really working over there. And then of course, the ongoing invasion of Ukraine by Russia, which is clearly having an impact on oil prices, which began, I think, at the end of February, early March. And what started as an invasion is pretty much a full-fledged war and humanitarian crisis now. So like Toronto real estate, everyone's just sort of waiting on pins and needles right now to find out what's going on. But looking at the numbers specifically here, we did almost 11,000 transactions and sales in the entire Toronto and GTA region, which is actually a pretty good result considering how much inventory actually came out, where last year we did around 15,000 transactions, which was a record and an extraordinary result. So based off of the first quarter of 2022, we're definitely going to be off the enormous record-setting transactions that we saw in 2021. As of right now, if we count everything from January to March, compared to last year, we're actually down 23% in terms of actual sales and transactions and deals getting done. But what I must warn you about looking into this specific figure and this specific statistic is that just because sales and deals are not getting done, that doesn't necessarily mean that the market is coming down. What that basically means is that buyers and sellers are not able to come to agreements to get a deal done, meaning sellers are still holding on to their prices. They want higher prices. Maybe they'll come down a little bit, but they're not in an incredible rush to sell. They'll wait maybe a couple more weeks or even just one more week, and they'll find the right buyer who's willing to pay for it. And then you've also got buyers who are maybe sitting on the sidelines, hoping, wishing, praying that prices are coming down. And truthfully speaking, the longer that they wait, the longer that they sit on the sidelines, they're going to get a rude awakening pretty quickly that the market's really not going to tank. And so that's why we've sort of been seeing this extraordinary real estate boom cycle for the past 2 decades. Probably we're going to get into 3 decades here in the Toronto and GTA region, is because people are not willing to sell for less. And that's just been the story for 20 some odd years. Do you really want to bet against that? I don't think so. So just to define what a seller's market really is, yes, a seller's market is definitely a situation where there's low inventory and there's a lot of buyers. Everyone's rushing to the property. They're throwing offers. They're throwing money at it. And then the prices keep getting bid up and up and up. That's a little bit more of an extreme example of what a seller's market is, but very, very common here in the Toronto and GTA region. The seller's market can also be cloaked in a different style too, which is that, sellers are really strong. They can afford to hold properties a little bit longer until they get their price. Or maybe they'll negotiate just a little bit, but that little bit's not really going to move the needle when it comes to average selling prices for the entire Toronto and GTA region. You need a lot of sellers who are willing to cut their prices 100, 200,000 just to sell the property. That story just doesn't mesh and jibe here in Toronto and GTA. And so while we did see a slight dip after the rager of a month we saw in February, where we blew past 1.3 million as an average, we were hovering at around almost 1.3 million for the month of March, which to me is actually pretty extraordinary because there was 12,000 more houses and condos, so housing units that came up for sale. So when you see a lot of inventory coming out and technically houses are supposed to be competing against each other, prices are not really dropping that much. So this really points to the strength and resilience of the Toronto housing market, just like it's been over the past 20 some odd years. So if you're house hunting right now and you really think you can go out there and have your pick of houses, to choose the best house that you want, your dream house, and be able to negotiate a ton off of it so that you can look like a superhero and be the big man to your fiance, I've got a rude awakening for you, man. It's not happening. So don't be fooled by the numbers, don't be fooled by the stats, don't be fooled by the media. You got to watch my channel here so you really know what's going on. And of course, you need a big time realtor to break down everything for you and help you calculate and judge, basically help you get into the market at the right time if you've got that kind of flexibility. So it seems like we're still a little bit in that limbo state. And to be honest, the limbo state is probably the best position we can be in right now in order to get you something reasonable, to get you at a fair price without having to bid an extra $100,000, $150,000 over asking just to get something that you're okay with. So overall, manage your expectations. You can see the sales prices, the data is out there, you know what's going on. So the thinking for most of our clients now is that instead of getting into a condo townhouse with maintenance fees, maybe they can get into a townhouse that's freehold, that's a little bit further out. Or instead of having to settle for a townhouse or semi-detached, maybe you can stretch and get a smaller detached home if that's what your dream and ultimate goal is. So it's always a little bit tricky depending on the neighborhood and the area that you're working in, and of course how nice the property is and how much inventory is in a given neighborhood that you're looking at. This is where the magic of working with a professional realtor really is. They can help you identify this, help you frame yourself in the right frame of mind, and of course to be aggressive and to strike when the moment and the opportunity is right. And if you guys watched some of my last videos, I talked about how there being a very small window. We might still be in that window right now, but I assure you for the really good properties, it's going to be closing very, very fast. And then of course, you're gonna have to work your way down the property ladder again. All right, so thanks again for watching, guys. I really appreciate you. If you haven't yet, please make sure you hit the subscribe button, give us a like. And of course, if you wanna contact me for professional, personal, and passionate service, then the contact information is in the description box below. It's also at the end of the video. If you think you're ready, it's a bit of a long process. There's a lot of things that we actually have to get through. Sometimes people think buying a home is as easy as tapping a few buttons on your iPhone and you're buying a home. Nah, there's a lot of things that we have to get through. There's a lot of things that you have to learn and understand so that you can purchase the right home for you and your family, hopefully without overpaying, but sometimes overpaying is okay too to get the house that you truly, truly love. So thank you again for watching, guys. I'm incredibly grateful, and we're heading towards 5,000 subscribers. I'm really happy about that. You can see the excitement in my face. And if you're not out there looking at houses and hunting for houses right now, I gotta say, you're missing out. So we'll see you guys in the next one, and thanks for watching. Bye for now. But before we move on, I would just like for all of you to tap that. But it definitely seems like we're going to be off the project. Like we're definitely going to be off the enormous. We're definitely going to be off. We're definitely going to be off the enormous record. We're definitely going to be off